Good evening, everyone. Good Thursday. Please let me know you could hear me. I could not hear the song playing when the video started. So hopefully you can hear me now. If I'm talking, just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know. But thank you all. I see. Let me give some shout outs to people out in chat right now. What's going on? What is up? Justin, what did you do to your name? Climax, what's going on? Lo-Fi, Ray, yes, we got Vet. Sanchez, what's up? I've been seeing it around in chat. Dave, thanks for coming by. Cammy, Obi Rose, you gotta let me know. I think Obi, you're playing Ragnarok. Let us know in chat how you like it. Who else do we have? Well, I see someone there. Joe, y'all, if y'all have not seen Joe's show, please go check it out. Angry Poultry, I believe that's Joe. But yes, um, everyone, thank you so much for coming by. It means so much for y'all to be here. This is a special, every week's special, but this one's super, super special. You know, Joe from last week kind of got us started off in the mood. And this week, we have a very special guest, as you can see in the title. If y'all did not know, it is Veterans Day tomorrow. So that means for all veterans and service members and their family, it's a day to reflect on what that means and their sacrifice. And we have a veteran here who definitely has sacrificed quite a bit. So hopefully we can talk about, he's going to open up, he's going to share our story. But if you watch him at all, you already know he's super open book, always positive, always bringing cheer. And also I want to give a special shout out to two wonderful people, my friend Chris in Jan 34. Sometimes you all see Jan in chat. Jan ran the New York City Marathon last Sunday. My friend Chris ran it. She ran it in 4.5 hours, y'all. 4.5 hours, 26.2 miles. Mind blowing. It was a great experience. 50,000 something runners running in New York City. Great experience. But now I'm back. And so looking forward to kicking things off with the show. And then also this week, I think I'm going to finish Martha is Dead. So if y'all want to check that out towards the ending, people tell me it's kind of creepy. So if you want to see it, come on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. With that said, y'all know it's not about purple. It's about the person in the description. And that is Vet Cloud Gaming. What is up, Vet?
I'm watching the chat go by.
We did it. Oh no, Vet. We did.
Can you not hear me? Are you serious? Is it not working?
Let's see. Oh, we were just talking, Vet. I know this. Wait, can y'all hear Vet? Because it could just be me. Actually, you know what? I think it is me, y'all. Hold on. It is. Yep. Okay. Y'all can hear Vet.
Okay.
Vet. It's me. It's me. All for some reason when I. So that's why I couldn't hear anything. Vet is talking. Oh my gosh, do not put me near computers. I don't know how to work them.
I bring forth tech issues with me. That's my thing.
I am so sorry.
Rouster's in the chat exactly is 100% there. It's not a vet stream if there aren't tech issues. That's been my motto from day one.
Shout out to Rouster. What is Dark 1995? Thank you for coming by. Casey, haven't you seen you in a second? What is up, Nerds World, as well? Thank you all so much for coming by. We're about to dive into Vet Cloud Gaming story. If you could not tell, he is a veteran. He's representing the best branch of the military. Look at that shirt there. Army strong. He has a hat that says Army.
That's the original, the
OG. Thank goodness we don't have anybody like Ron Slusher or anybody who's from the Navy in chat, because we just know the Navy. Don't need Navy here. We don't need Navy in the.
My son is one of my sons is in the Navy, so
Oh, come on!
I tried getting him to the Army. And then my buddy of mine tried to get him into the Air Force, and he was like, "Well, maybe I'll do the Marines." I'm like, "You don't like me disciplining you. You're that is not the right branch to go to."
Yes, and Dark 1985. Yes, if y'all did not know, it is the Marine Corps' birthday today. Let me know if that's right, Doc. I know I know a thing or two. I spent 13 years in the military. I may look like I'm 13, but I did do 13 years in the military several careers ago. So with that said, Vet, why? Okay, so lots of us are veterans in the community, but you decided that you alone were going to be named Vet Cloud Gaming.
Yes. I didn't actually start as Vet Cloud Gaming. I've had at least 2 rebrands. This is like the 3rd name I've had since I started streaming. It started out as U.S. Army Veteran Gaming, and it's because that
That sounds pretty official there.
I know that one. You would think that I was owned by the Army for that. Oh wait, I technically still am owned by the Army, but and then I transitioned to Stadia Vet Gaming, and then when I branched out, I was like, all right, I still want to keep the cloud gaming. I'm a veteran, so I just dropped part of it and went with Vet Cloud Gaming. It just kind of meshed together. I didn't really think it through. I just kind of took Vet and then kept the other 2 because it was simple and easy. It wasn't a whole lot of work to think of something new.
It works. I mean, you're known as Vet. Everybody says Vet.
Yeah. Even when I was Stadia Vet Gaming, it was still literally nobody referenced me as Stadia Vet. It was always Vet. So I just went with that because that's pretty much what it was called anyways. So it made sense to just do it that way.
No, well, good. I mean, great rebrand, little pivot there. And I think what's super cool about you, Vet, is I ran across you when Rainbow Six Siege first came to Stadia, and there was that group of people. I remember because you used to always like rage quit with Megatron X and stuff. Like you would start killing your own teammates because you got mad.
Yeah. Supposedly I was told to kill the other team when I quit, so I just killed everybody, and then I quit. Yeah, that game brought out so much rage in me.
No, and then I think we're going to talk about it, but you also, if I not recalled, Stadia selected you to actually do a stream, no? Or was that not you? I'm pretty sure that was you.
One of the big events. I know I did one at least once or twice.
That's super. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, actually I was on with Meg and a couple other people for one of their Rainbow Six thing, and I didn't do too well in that either.
No, but we'll talk about Stadia here in a second. But as we all know, we like to reminisce about like the good old days, whether that's Atari or all the English people talk about these other systems that no one's heard of, but a lot of us talk about NES. If you're really young like David Wilson, you talk about like PlayStation 3. But just David Wilson actually does have a couple of really older ones. But tell us, where does your gaming journey start?
Console wise, it would be Atari. I saw Doc. Somebody in the chat asked yes, this is an Xbox wireless headset. Just to throw that out there. But console was
look
Atari.
at the attention to detail from Dark 1985.
Get that one out. That was the only thing I saw as the chat's been going. I saw that one. But no, Atari was like my first console, and then technically PC would have been a Tandy 1000 for those that even know what that is. And if you have no clue, just Google it.
What is it called?
There should be the Tandy 1000.
The Tandy 1000. This sounds like a toy that I would use to get me aroused.
It was basically it was like big old computer screen and a flop and no hard drive. You had a keyboard and either 3.5 or a 5.25 inch floppy disk. I mean, that's going way back before Windows and even DOS was a thing. So I'm very old with the computer tech. So I've been around that. I went from there to the Nintendo. And then I wasn't really a Sega person until the 32X and the Sega CD.
So what did you play on this? I'm just curious. You mentioned Tandy 1000 and
DOS games. I played like Carmen Sandiego
games. I played floppy, and my mind is just gone now. So,
I went the nerdy games, like the educational stuff. They didn't have much back then. I was at the early stages of gaming, so before consoles. When I was getting into the computers, and that was starting to break out. So I was, like the DOS days when it was like
we had to do the
Duke Nukem 3D. Yep, you had to type all the codes and stuff. There was no cheat. Well, I guess technically there could have been, but I had like the Duke Nukems.
Duke Nukem had a cheat. Let's see if
Yeah,
anybody
there were a lot of
remembers
those.
the God mode in Duke Nukem. I still remember it.
Yeah, that's how I beat the game.
Cornholio.
That's how I beat the game.
You type that in and you had like
Yeah,
undeniable, like
everything.
yeah.
Well,
I
then there was
remember.
there was like Duke Nukem Atomic Edition where you could that was actually my first game that I got into where I had learned how to mod games. Was that old one, and then I shifted back as I got older. By the time I was in high school, I was into console, so I had the Nintendo, I had the Super Nintendo. My favorite was probably the Super Nintendo. I had friends that had the Sega Genesis. I wasn't big into it. I never really got that way. Sega CD and the 32X were kind of where I was, but when Sega took me away from Nintendo, it was the Dreamcast. It
Sega
was by the,
Dreamcast. A lot of people
that
would
was
say that was your
that
thing.
was
You like
that I
ahead of
bought
its
it
time.
brand new at game. I bought it brand new. I dropped $500. I burned an entire paycheck on the Dreamcast, the second controller, a couple of games, the VM.
$500. When was this?
That was 2002, I think. I don't
Five
know.
hundred dollars in
Games.
2002. I want to do like all the old people. Five
I'll
hundred
have to.
dollars in
I
two
think
thousand two. That's like $10 million in today's dollars.
it might cost that much to try to track down some of the old stuff. But that was at a time when GameStop was still selling Sega Genesis games and Nintendo games in the store. Like they actually had the physical cartridges. It wasn't considered retro at the time because that term wasn't around. So
Oh, we do know
I was
retro.
gaming before retro was a thing.
Oh my gosh, you're
So yeah.
gaming when. And so we skipped through a lot, but I don't ask a lot of people who mention Dreamcast. Why did you like Dreamcast? Because like when Dreamcast first came out, if you remember, like the marketing for Dreamcast was always about like, but it was like bringing back like plain art, like it's very arcadey. Like the
Yeah.
games were very arcadey, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I always thought it was kind of a weird thing. Like I get it, Sega had stuff like Sega, Atari were arcade kings back then,
Yeah.
and they were trying to relive like the arcade days. And so I was like,
Miss those
but
days.
that was like 10 years after arcades had kind of like
Well, they
died.
were. If you the think about it, the Dreamcast was ahead of its time. If it had came out like later on, I think Sega would still be around doing consoles. But I liked it because the controllers were weird shaped, but I did like the VMU tech in it because when I played football games, nobody could see me.
Oh my
Rouster
god.
500.
I know Rouster would be the one who goes and gets
Like he
the
had it
action.
open on another window. All right, let me see. 500. Yep, that's
What
a
do you
lot of
have,
dough you're spending
Rouster?
there, vet.
What do you go look up? Like,
I don't even know I don't even want to know. That doesn't surprise me. It's Rouster.
oh my gosh.
But
Hey,
no,
what up, Morgan
it
Ashley?
was
We're just talking about games here.
there were certain things about the Dreamcast that I liked. I did like the arcade style games, NFL Blitz, Crazy Taxi. Those were kind of my favorites. So yeah, but
But
the
I'm gonna
feature,
push
the
you. I
things
want to
that
push you on this idea though, because
okay,
people always say this. People always say Sega Dreamcast was before its time, right? Like we like to say that even though like back in the day when Sega Dreamcast came out, no one liked Sega Dreamcast. It's like in
oh yeah,
10 years, people are gonna be like, Stadia was before its time. It's like, yeah, but you used to hate on it, so don't talk to me about Stadia.
I know
So
now
tell
everybody
me,
wants the Sega Dreamcast too to
yeah.
come out.
So tell me why, in your opinion, was Sega Dreamcast ahead of its
It
time?
was
Like I could
it
tell you
was
why a Nomad is ahead of its time because I now
it was
look
the
at
tech with the tech with the controllers. The VMU itself was literally the main thing that set it apart from everything else because there is no other like playing Madden or and that's the easiest one because that was the NFL 2K1 and 2K2 game that they had. You would if you played against a friend of yours and you guys would sit there. Normally, like in Madden, the plays are on the screen.
right.
And then they eventually got rid of that feature so you would just push a button and it would learn your stuff. But back then, it had literally had all the plays on your controller, so it never showed any of that. There is not a system out today that has that kind of a feature.
So how's that before its time? Like if maybe that's just not a popular
What
feature, no?
I think it would have been a popular feature. That was all
Okay.
well, and I see it had an internet browser. Well, technically so did the PlayStation 2, but I think it just, I don't know. I think it was the marketing that killed it. That literal, well, it killed Sega. I'm just weird, I guess. I really
No, I'm
liked
just
it.
joking. There's many. You're not.
I know
Yeah, I
there's
gotta
no
make a
way
show.
to.
I gotta make a show. I
I
gotta
know that. I
push
know.
you.
I'm like, internet browser. Come on, the PS2 had one too, but the other, I think it also had Windows operating system. I mean, not that was the best thing.
Okay.
So
So Ray, gaming cyborg. Since you're out there, why would you say? Because I hear this a lot. I talk to people a lot of times in the gaming community, and they will always mention this like love for the Dreamcast. And so my question is,
I
into
gotta,
chat.
deal with my kid real quick.
No worries. I'm talking.
Okay,
You
they
got
can they
that.
can look at the bullets on my screen.
Are those bullets? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize what he has in there. Okay, violence. But here we are, y'all. Vet's taking care of his kids, doing a lot of stuff, being father. But tell me, chat, for those who play Dreamcast, all right, why do y'all continue to hold on that this was a system before its time, an amazing system, right? Like for other, like Nomad, I can tell you why Nomad was before its time was because we had game or Steam Deck. Basically, Nomad did it before them. But why would we say Dreamcast? Dreamcast had a lot of fighting games, though I never had. Exact. That doesn't make it. I could never play in the Arcadia. Why not Justin? Little baby. Justin, hopefully you're also Justin. If y'all did not know, Justin is still recovering from his trip in the hospital. So wish him a lot of luck as he gets better. Because all the kids hogged the cabinets. Oh man, Justin got bullied there. Hey, something, what's up? So
I honestly don't know. I really don't. I think it's just the stigma, the fact that it was the one system that killed Sega. I think it just made
that
that allure
people
about it.
say it was
I really
before its
don't.
time because Sega's
I don't know. I literally it's been said for so long that it just sticks now. Like that's the go-to
I
excuse
know
of
that's
why
what
it
I
failed.
feel like
And
people say.
nobody knows. Nobody knows the real answer anymore.
Like when you look at the answers, I was so just I was talking to someone like a month about 2 months ago about this. And like I was like, yeah, so what about Dreamcast? Because we were kind of reminiscing about Stadia and stuff, and then talking about systems that had killed uh their gaming company's aspirations or whatnot. So Dreamcast came up, and I was like, what about Dreamcast? Because I remember when Dreamcast came out, and I'm always just like, are you just saying that? But to your point, you're like, it just stuck. So
Yeah,
I
it
guess
literally did. And I think people just kept going with the same answers over and over for so long. That's what we have to go on. There is no way to determine why it was terrible, why it failed, or anything at this point, or
it just
why it
is
was ahead of
it
its
was
time.
before its time.
Yeah,
When
that's the answer for it.
I can live with that. I can live with that. If that is the
Yeah.
answer, like eventually it actually gives me hope for Stadia, right? Because eventually we will say it's before its time, and then everybody will love it and they'll want it to come back out, and it will get off
And
of
then we'll
this
get
like,
Stadia 2.0 at that point.
oh my gosh, maybe that's Google Play on your phone, probably. But with that said, I can answer, but it's very long-winded. Obi, well, we have time. I will say that. We have time, Obi, if you want to answer this question. But so Vet, talk to us about some of the games you played though. So you mentioned going from Nintendo to Sega, and we always, we like to talk about games on
Yeah,
this. This is a gaming
I was all
channel.
over the place. Whether it was console, it was always Mario. When I was Nintendo, I was a big Mario fan. I never beat Mario Brothers. I never beat Super Mario Brothers 1. Never beat it. I didn't play Mario 2. I've never beaten Mario Brothers 3. I've never beaten Super Mario World from Super Nintendo. Mostly because when I would die repeatedly, I would rage quit. And even at a young age, I was still that rage quit has been with me since the Super Nintendo era.
So,
So
question: did you beat any games during this time?
no.
You're like,
I had
no.
never I have never beaten a game until I started streaming. And then it still took me forever before I just happened to end up accidentally beating the game
Oh
by
my god.
dumb luck. Yeah,
So
that was probably like a year ago when that happened. I just accidentally beat it. I didn't even realize it until the credits rolled. And I was like, "Oh, I just beat my first game."
and then you got mad because the game ended.
I did. Yeah, there was a couple of those that I was pissed that it just ended and forced me to have to play another one that I didn't really want to play, and that was Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla that I don't really care for.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla is like the longest
I,
game I've ever seen.
I don't
There goes
like
something
it.
for Lo-Fi. Lo-Fi Monk, why don't you play Assassin's Creed Valhalla? Because I believe
I
that would
just
take you
don't-
longer than
I just don't like it because to me it's, and I know everybody's like, but Vet, you love to kill everything in sight, and I'm like, I know, but I started with Odyssey, and Valhalla just seems like there's just way too much talking, and I don't want to do all that. I just need to jump right in, and
I
then
feel
I'd
like
play
I
other
know how
games that
your first
counteract it.
date went with your wife. I feel like I know exactly how this went. I hate the talking. I just want to jump right in, Vet. I feel like I know what. I think I know you.
Well,
I think I've dated guys like you, Vet. I'm just saying, like
I've
sometimes we
I've
gotta warm
toned
up
down
here.
a little bit over the years. I was way worse with my other relationships, but that's for another story. That's another story.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, guys, this is a PG-13 conversation.
Yeah, I will try to keep it PG.
So we did Nintendo. No Marios. You don't beat games. You didn't do Mario 1,
No,
2, 3, Sonic.
yeah,
You're just like, I
I
like
just I
colors.
I don't know. I didn't get really sold into gaming until like the Madden came out, when football games came out, and then I kind of was like, all right, I was a huge Madden fan. I probably played every Madden game up until 2018 or so. I mean, I stopped for a while after 2001 came out, and then I got back when they brought it back to PC, but it's just never been the same because EA's kind of killed it for me. But I've tried
You're a
everything.
Jeff disciple.
I played Final Fantasy on Super Nintendo, and then I tried Final Fantasy X, and I was just like, I actually had to end the stream because I was falling asleep. That's how bad that game was for me to play. That one was it was way too slow. I need fast-paced games to stay into things at this point.
So you mentioned, so you played football games, right? You said
Yeah.
Madden. So around the same time Madden really started, like obviously Madden, we can go pretty far back with Madden, but around
Yeah.
this time, like where you're talking about Dreamcast and a few years before, there was another football game out. And I want to get your opinion about that, NFL Blitz. What did you think about
Oh my God. I want that to come back. When Stadia was around, and I know we're not, on that subject, but that was one of the games that I always wanted to see them get on the service, because NFL Blitz was always one of my favorites, and it was just the way it was arcade football, but it was also, even after the play, I think I would play those games, and then at the end of the game, it shows your stats and all that, and I had about 300 or 400 or 500 penalties. Because every play I would just demolish the player, and then I would just drop a flying elbow on him or jump on him or whatever you could do, to the point where the game was like, you've already set the record or something, and I probably played every version except for the Blitz Pro or whatever it was. I think there was one on PlayStation 2 that I wasn't real big on. It kind of got away from the arcade style and more to the trying to compete with Madden.
Right, and I don't think they ever could do it because I think they lost.
No, Madden had already taken the crown at that point. There's nothing that has been able to take out Madden except for NFL, the 2K series. But Madden made sure to kill that one as well. Or EA did.
So no more of that. Interesting. I always wondered that. So, have four players could play Blitz? No,
I think on the arcade machine. No, even on the systems. Yeah, I think they could. Wow. I know on the Nintendo 64 you could do 4 players for Blitz 2001 or whichever one it was. I've lost track. There's so many games that I've played over the years. But yeah, the fights after the plays literally was the highlight for that game.
Interesting. No, I always wondered. I meant to ask Jeff that about the other NFL because Jeff is a big EA type of player, or was in football. And
I think, now he doesn't acknowledge that he ever was.
I know, but I always like football's one of those games. Like, it's a very interesting game to put in a video game to me. Like, well, that in baseball, I think baseball is like the most boring game to put in video games, but football to me is like.
I tried baseball, but it's just
Sorry, MLB The Show. I know some of y'all like MLB The Show. I am not hating on
I-
MLB The Show.
I never got into. I tried to get into it, but it's just I can't. It bores me to death. Even though I like playing it, it's just boring, and it's like watching golf or tennis on television. It's stuff I use to help me go to.
Let's slow down there. Now, tennis is that you were doing good. Golf, okay, got it.
I no,
Tennis?
like I don't like watching it because I get tired watching. That's a lot. It's back and forth. I like playing them as video games. I can play like the old Tiger Woods golf games. I like playing those, and then tennis games. I'm terrible at, and I've branched out all the over the years with different games, sports games. There was volleyball games I've tried, and usually I'm awful at, and then I got good with the racing games and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. No, well, baseball, when you play baseball, so what I'm talking, so I want to responding to, and I want to say shout out to Ellis Murderman Foster. Ellis, I know you're a PlayStation person, but are you playing God of War? Because I know you have a PlayStation 5 that supposedly your partner got you, so gotta ask you about that. Because if y'all did not know, God of War Ragnarok came yesterday. Actually, that sounds bad. But God of War Ragnarok landed yesterday for everybody.
So it was going to be borderline PG-13 borderline.
It landed. Okay, it landed. Is that better? Is that better? Yes, but so all right. So you like sports games. You're playing everything.
Yeah.
You're doing some cool stuff. You yourself you were a football player back in the day,
Yeah. I had 4 years in high school, 4 years varsity in high school for football, and I also played lacrosse for 3 years, which not many people know what the hell that is, but it's I don't even really know how to.
The indigenous people of the Americas is what lacrosse originally came from.
Yeah, and it's still, they have a professional league and all that. I played it because I could stay active with as a defensive player and hit people, and that's what I like doing. When I played football for 4 years, I was a defensive end, and as much as my coach, I got yelled at for not listening to the coaches. So the problem with authority started in high school and has carried on with me for just throughout my life. Yeah. So well, because in high school, they want you in a 3-point stance as a defensive end. And I watched, the NFL. And most of the defensive ends back in the 90s did not do that. They stood up. And I told my coach, I'm like, dude, I am going to stand up because I can get to the player or the quarterback or whoever has the ball faster by standing up than trying to stand up from a 3-point stance. And he's like, he would just make me do extra running after the game and after every practice, and still let me do it during the games because I usually would get a sack or, a forced fumble. I had a few of those. I did get one touchdown, but then it got called back for, I don't remember. I think it was showboating because I tried to high step it in because I'd had enough yards to get down there, and then I high stepped it in and then spiked it, and then they took that one away from me. I wasn't aware that you couldn't showboat in high school.
I just have this image of you as like the most non-coachable player who just like does what you want to do. Like you're like team sport. I'm gonna do what I saw on TV, coach. And it's like, well,
I pretty much handled it. And lacrosse, kill the player with the ball. Lacrosse, it's a small ball, but it's solid rubber. And when you get hit with that, it hurts. And I've been hit. I was hit a few times with that. It does not feel well. And even in lacrosse, I did the same thing on deep. When you play as a defensive player, you're not supposed to score. You're not supposed to cross the middle of the field. And I did that several times. And one time I did get clocked by another defensive player, but he, knocked me into the air and on my back. And I still ignored my coaches. So yeah, I liked hitting people. So it worked out well to be a defensive end. I did play offense once. They had me as a back, like a third string running back and on special teams. But at the time I was quick. I did the 40-yard dash in like a 4.8 or something like that. I used to be quick, and now I would break my knees trying to even get anywhere near that speed. The only way I could get to that speed is in a scooter. Ray
This
knows
is
what I'm talking about.
so, oh my God. And welcome, Severin. We are just Severin. No, Severin, you're not a Ragnarok person. You're a PC person. You told me you didn't want to play Ragnarok. Well, welcome, Severin. We are just
I'll play
talking
Ragnarok
stuff.
once it's on PC.
So we're just talking to Vet about his gaming journey, his life journey. He's talking to us a little bit about his football days, and Phil did not know he was going to go to college for football.
I
But
was.
then
I had scholarships. Yeah, I had scholarships to several schools. Maryland, Virginia. I grew into high school in Virginia, so I had scholarships to Virginia Tech, Maryland, Iowa. I wanted to go to Florida State. That was my ideal school at the time when I was in high school. I wanted to play for Florida State. I was trying to think. I had full scholarship to Maryland. It was the only school. I refused all the other scholarships because I would actually had to pay and take loans out and stuff. And right before I was supposed to start, right after I graduated high school, I blew my left knee out. I literally walking into the kitchen to get something. I turned a corner and I dislocated my knee. I went down and then I popped it back into place. And yeah, was not supposed to do that. And by the time I got to the hospital, I had surgery 2 months later, and I found out what I thought was the hospital told me you broke a quarter-sized piece of your kneecap. And my surgeon said, no, actually, you broke a quarter-sized piece of your femur, which isn't even supposed to happen. And I was like, well, I don't know. And the surgeon I had was actually a former Air Force. So, and I had never gone to the military at the time, and I still had military doctors dealing with my knee issues. So, and he was just amazed that I was able to break my femur like that. And I'm like, I'm just special, I guess.
special it is. And so what do we do with
Yeah.
most special people who are somewhat athletic? Where do they usually a lot of times end up next?
Well, I ignored college. I did not use my full scholarship because I knew I was not going to get to play football. And the only reason I wanted to go to school was to play football and make it to the pros, or try to. And so my only option at the time then would have been to actually get an education. I was like, well, that ain't happening. So I could care less about studying and all that. So I went to work in the retail world, and I did, I worked for Radio Shack, and I'm sure half the population doesn't know what that is. There might be a few out there that know what Radio Shack was.
Radio Shack was so cool. It used to have like a lot of radios. But no, it had like all like electronic stuff. Had like
that was where I built my first cable box that wasn't illegal, even though the parts were all I built a universal cable box that may or may not have been able to get all the channels. It's not my fault that the parts were all listed for Radio Shack, but I worked there. I left there after because I burned out a year and a half into working there, because I started as a sales associate and I never took a day off because I like talking, go figure. And I was a people person, another shocker to everyone. And so sales came naturally to me, and I ended up getting put into a management program. And then I was running like $1 million stores and things like that, but I was working like 80 hours a week. And it was
a lot of hours.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I was ever at my house. I was always in my store. So I just half the time was crashing in the back room and sleeping. There were a few times before I was in management, I was still sleeping in the back room, but that was because I had a headache, a really bad headache from alcohol, possibly.
We want to welcome, I see Windstar out there. I don't think I actually welcome Windstar, another veteran here in the chat. We see Project Storm, definitely. And I think we got a guest appearance from Megatron X. So
yeah, I think I saw her name in there before the chat went.
Yeah, it went in there. Once you start talking about Radio Shack, and Severin talks about Radio Shack like Micro Center. I think of
everybody's excited.
I think of Radio Shack more like of oh my gosh, what was that really? It was oh my god,
there was Circuit City was the other one that was similar.
No, this one was like a store. It always had like unique little gadgets, and it also went out of business. It was like an electronics store. It had something Sharper Image. I always thought of Radio Shack kind of like
those were in the mall. I used to love going to those places.
Yeah. So I always like remember going to like Radio Shack, and it used to have all these like Sharper Image. Now that's one that people in the chat may not.
The first time I went to Sharper Images, it was actually in San Francisco when I went out there when I was out in California for 2 weeks. But yeah, I remember that.
Man, some people are
But
like, some
I
people
went
think that's
there and
probably
then
like a barber shop or something. No, Sharper Image is like it was like a store. It was a cool store. So
Ray would know what it is. I can guarantee he would know what. He probably bought a ton of stuff there, and his wife killed him several times.
oh my gosh, Rouster, the portable AC, the blue thing that you put on your back and it had like water and ice, which you could have just like soaked the
Oh
towel and
man,
put on your neck.
never.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh man.
Yeah,
That's
Circuit City
good.
was Circuit City was awesome, and then it was and Blockbuster. I actually worked for Blockbuster for like a few months, and then I quit because I had a problem with my
So I'm seeing a
manager.
trend here. If you work there, it goes out of business. Just saying, just saying that
Well,
like
I worked at Best
you
Buy.
were
Also,
on a, but you were an amazing salesperson. That's
yeah,
all.
I worked at GameStop and I worked at Best Buy. Neither those are both GameStop's iffy, but Best Buy is still in business. I did
Barely.
quit Best Buy after 3 months. Though I quit on Christmas Eve.
Best Buy is
Um,
in business for now. After
yeah,
closing 2/3 of
well,
their stores. Like,
and I liked working at Best Buy, but I didn't like my boss, and so the reason I quit was I was helping a customer, and they wanted me to just point and send them on. They had a question in a department I didn't work in, and I was told to go somewhere else, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, if you don't do that, we're writing you up. I said, well, you can't write up somebody that quit that doesn't work here, and I said, all right, I quit, I'm out, and I walked out the store,
I'm
and
starting
I
to see
didn't go back.
that there is multiple patterns in your life, right? You coach, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Can't tell me to do anything. Right.
It's not like
Now,
I didn't have an entitlement or anything.
you know, and now it's like, that's where literally they're paying you, and you're like, F you, not paying me no
So,
more.
no, I
That
know. I
was it.
quit Best
Y'all have
Buy.
always you went to the store and you've always seen that person. They're like, someone just quit on us. We're apologizing that we're delaying you. That was Vet. Vet
It's me.
caused that at Best Buy. That's what he did.
So,
Right there.
and I did. I quit Christmas Eve, and I walked out the store, and I joined the army 2 days later
So
because I figured,
you figure
yeah.
you might as well no one can
Well,
tell you anything, so you might as well go to the land of freedoms and go into the
I
army.
figured it would work out. I had a problem with authority. I figured what better thing to do than join the U.S. military because I figured that would help, and it did
Helps.
not work out the way I thought it was going to go.
So last week Joe talked to us about this amazing story where he joins the military, helps pay for school, has brothers, goes to the infantry. This inspiring thing that Joe tells us. You tell us that you joined the army because you quit because you could not, you did not like authority. So
Yeah.
you said, you know what? I want to create my own, like, I don't know, hazing session for myself or pain, like, and go into the military because, they have a history of having authority there. And you're like, Best Buy couldn't tell me anything. Army can't tell me anything. So let's go. So
Well,
you go.
Yeah, it did not work out that way. Right off the bat. I mean, I had issues with drill sergeants the moment I got there. And before I even got in, I had to go to, but they had to take, I enlisted at Fort Meade in Maryland. I had to go to Bethesda Naval Hospital because of my surgery my scar on my left knee. They were going to try to say, well, you're immediately had to get a medical waiver to get in. So I passed that. I allegedly might have been on medication at the time. And my recruiter was like, going through the list of questions, the questions, and then he says, "Are you taking medications for anything?" I said, "Well, if by taking them does that disqualify me?" "Well, yeah, more than likely." I said, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about that. I didn't hear what you said."
That's how we get them in the military. There's always a bad egg in the bunch. And I want to shout out another veteran out in the chat. I did not recognize him, but if y'all did not know, our native Canadian, half German, half Japanese person who is dating Puerto Rican, Severin, is also a veteran. So shout out to Severin. Thank you for your service as well. But here we go, Vet. let's go. So
Yeah, so I got the waiver. I got in. Anything that would have disqualified me did not happen. There's no record of it. It's all classified information. So I got in. I went, and then they shipped me down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. That so I lived in Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. I was born in Florida. South Carolina in the summer is a different story. Holy hell! Like the heat there is not the same as Virginia heat or Florida heat.
it's just a different heat with mosquitoes.
Yeah, that, and it was fun, like watching people drop left and right that refuse to drink 12 canteens of water. You know,
You know,
I don't
if
understand
anybody's
what, like,
South Carolina, if anybody's from South Carolina, I've always had an issue with South Carolina. You know, I have an issue with the Dakotas. Like I don't get why we have North and South Dakota. You will never convince me. You know, I think SPG knows this issue with me in the Dakotas. Like, why do we have two? Why are there two Dakotas? South Carolina, also I have an issue with them. And if you ever look up South Carolina barbecue, it looks different than any barbecue known to the United States. It's like weird. It's like white sauce. It's like
do you have an issue with West Virginia then? In Virginia?
I can't go after West Virginia. That's like picking on that's a state.
Well, they were part. I mean, and you don't really have to, because they were part of Virginia.
No,
Virginia just said get. We can't deal with what you got going on there.
But at least when you say Virginia, okay, I have an image, and when I have West Virginia, I have a different image, right? One's Appalachia, and
one's
Deliverance,
pickup trucks,
and one is like
pickup trucks, and
yeah, exactly. So when we talk about, tell me that you can visually think of the difference between South Dakota and North Dakota.
No, nothing. It's
exactly
open. They're both open land, flat.
But we have two states. We have two states. No, that's why I have a problem. And they became a state on the same exact date. Like
somebody mishandled the paperwork. Clearly,
I just call it Dakota. If somebody tells me they're going to one of them, I just say you're going to Dakota. You're not going to this. There's no war was fought over there. No. I get excited about that one. But South Carolina, I get excited because they have this barbecue that's like, I don't know. Someone told them they have barbecue, but it's just different. So it is what it is. All right.
Yeah, but I did my AIT or basic training in Fort Jackson. I did my AIT in Fort Jackson, and I was supposed to get shipped. Well, the recruiter said you're not going overseas, which that was all bullshit, because the moment I got down there, this is what you're going to do your basic training. You're going to do your AIT, and we're shipping you over to Iraq in November. I was like, oh. But my recruiter told me I wasn't going overseas. Well, he said
sounds like you had a better salesperson. Get you into them. It sounds like you were outsold on that one.
I was like, well, that SOB got me, didn't he? So I got all my shots, and that was super fun. I've never been in a standing line where you just walk and they just jam a needle in your arm and you move on to the next staff sergeant and it's just a walking line of recruits that are just getting stuck in the arm with the needle. Not allowed to ask questions, So who knows what they put in the needle? So I'm just like, I love the Army.
Uncle Sam you're basically owned by the government at that point.
Yeah. I was told once you sign the dotted line that you're joining, you are owned. You are government property. Anything you do is not allowed unless the government says so. And I was like, all right. So when I got down there, they asked me, what do you want to do? And at the time I was like, I just want to shoot people. That was the first thing that came to mind when I got yelled at right off the bus. They wanted me to ask me what I wanted to do. And I was like, I just want to shoot people. And they were like,
how did you get in? That is not what. That is not.
I literally have no idea.
The thing. So here's the thing. So you want to shoot people, and they did the exact thing that they for people who are like that, who don't want authority, want to shoot people, took medication, but did not let the screeners know that they're taking medication. They did the exact thing that they needed to do with you. And what job did they give you?
42 Alpha. Woo!
It
HR.
so he's not
I'm
joking,
like,
y'all. He
I'm
actually
not. I am not joking. I got through the system my own way, the vet way. I literally told them what I wanted to do, and they said, "Well, we got the perfect job for you, 42 Alpha." And I was like, "What is that?" And they're like, "It's HR. You'll love it." And I was like, and then they told me I was told that that was the only job that I qualified for, and I found out afterwards that I qualified. Like, if you wanted to shoot people, you could have the worst score, and you should have still been able to. And I was like, "Well, I don't know what I did wrong then. Like, I answered the questions correctly, and like my recruiter, he looked it up, and he was like, and I had some friends that looked up my stuff, and they're like, dude, I can see why they didn't want you as a why they put you there. They wanted to keep you housed. Your scores were kind of all over the place. So I ended up like where I should have gone was I would have been over there, but I my drill sergeants were assholes. I hated them. And granted, I may or may not have listened, and I may have gotten quite a bit of Article 15s for, not following orders. Weird. And I had a black book when I was in there, when I was in basic training and Fort Jackson. I was unaware of that was a co-ed, so there were females there. Did not know that at the time, and I also did not know that you're not allowed to speak to them while you're in basic training. And I got yelled at constantly for that and for asking for phone numbers. And when they would say, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, I got a black book. I'm not gay, so what? Clearly, I'm going to be asking the females for their phone numbers so I can call them." And then I got yelled at for that one and more push-ups, and yeah.
So besides being this has taken a turn for the dark side. Like, you are a
I wasn't
predator.
that bad.
You
I
are a
enjoyed,
predator.
like, I wanted to go overseas and serve my country, but not sit at a desk. And I know they told me I was still going over there, and I was like, "But you have me as a desk job. You'll still get to shoot." I'm like, "All right, that's fine. I'm good then." But before I could do all of that, we were running drills, and I was outside, and I kind of turned my head went and looked at something else, and my knee went one way and my body went the other, and I messed my right knee up. And so then I got medically discharged after about 4 trips to the medical center, and they booted me out after that with a medical discharge. And I was quite disappointed with myself. I was disappointed with myself that I didn't get to go overseas, not to just shoot, but because I wanted to actually stay in the military at that time. My cousin was in the Air Force. My grandfather fought in Vietnam, Korea, and he was at Iwo Jima in World War II. So there is the military tradition, and then there was me.
Well, WinStar, and if y'all don't know, S1 is what Vervet would have went. The HR in the military is considered the S1 shop. And so that is you're right, WinStar. That's what we usually ask.
Dude,
That's what
the gassing was the best, the most fun I had ever had. And I probably said I like, so my hair, and I'll briefly touch this because this ties in with the gas chamber comment. But my family heritage, my dad's side was Jewish and my mom's side was Christian. We're German, Italian, Russian, Austrian, and Romanian. Hence the anger and the all of that stuff. So when we went there, when they were having us in line to go into the gas chambers,
we got to
immediately.
set up. Not everybody's military here. So in the military, you have to go into a chamber, basically tear gas, what it is.
Yeah.
And it's to help you have confidence in your gas mask will work. So go ahead.
So I went in. Well, before I went in, because I got thrown in, weird. I told them, I was like, "Hey, I can't go in there," and they were like, "Why?" "I'm Jewish. Hello, the Holocaust." And he's like, I started laughing after that one at the time, and the sergeant did not think it was a very funny joke, and basically grabbed me and threw me in, and then forgot to give me my mask. So I was in there for a while, but then when I came out, he just was like, thought that I would be, I'd be struggling. No, I was laughing. I was like, because when you're in there and when you come out, you're obviously tears. There's not one person that doesn't have, and this is gross, but there's snot just hanging from your nose. And I was just shaking my head like a dog, a wet dog, swinging it everywhere. And that one got me in trouble also, because I hit a sergeant with a big old snot thing.
But you were, we
I
had
know.
this one. We've had these stories. Windstar's come on here. Primo has come on here.
Yeah, everybody takes
Joe's
it
come on
seriously, and
here.
they literally, when I was leaving, I did have some friends, and they were like, "Why were you such like?" I was like, I literally thought it was gonna, I thought I'd be, the guy like from the movies. I watched Bill Murray and John Candy go to war. I thought it would be the same thing, and clearly I was wrong.
Clearly, it wasn't. Clearly,
I mean, I
geez.
did, and I will say I never cleaned the barracks when I was in basic training. Never had to.
You
Not
were.
once. I went to church. I just happened to go to Protestant church one week, and then the next week I would go to Catholic, and then I just rotated so I could get out of cleaning.
I see this like no discipline, not a team player.
No.
You're just in it for yourself. You want to just no small talk. You just want to jump in right in there. That is
And
like
it's
all
probably a good thing I
where
didn't
you
get sent
work, they
over.
go out of business. Like it is like
Honestly, it's probably a good thing that they didn't send me, because the type I was, I probably would have just been like, all right, let's go shoot. And I would have been the one that shoots first and not ask questions at all.
yeah. So you re-hurt your knee, right? So
Yeah.
there we go. You come out of the military, you re-hurt your knee. You then have a long struggle because right now, here's the thing. Since vet was owned by the government and the government broke their own property, vet then gets retired from the military.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gets retired, goes through the process, a long one from what I recall, right? So
yeah, I got out in 04. Yeah, I got out in 04. I didn't get approved until 2012.
2012
for VA benefits.
So for everybody out there, here's the face vet, right here, who when y'all hear about the Veterans Administration and bills being passed or things to help veterans get the benefits that they deserve, that they're owed, that's a big deal. So imagine back in 2004, he hurt his knee and it took him 8 years for them finally to recognize it. So when you hear about these modernization processes or things in the United States, this is what it's like. There are real people behind that messaging. So, and during this time, vet, so you went to the military. Where do you start gaming again?
Once I it probably wasn't until around the time that I started gaming. After I got out, I was in and out of gaming and things, and because it was a way to kind of just focus my mind back on where I was even though I didn't get to go overseas and all that, I still played. I was back into playing the military games. I was doing sports games. I was still struggling with work. I was working jobs, but every job I had was 3 months here, 3 months there, and I had no clue what was really the cause of why I could not hold down a job, with whether it was usually it tied in with anger. Almost every time I'd get rage quit, in the video game terms, I rage quit and I walk out and quit, and I would just go from one job to the next, and finally I was I needed to figure something out what was going on. And in between that, I was having surgeries on my knee, on my right knee, the one that I injured. So by the time I got approved, I'd already had 4 surgeries at least at that point. And it still hadn't fixed anything. So I was frustrated with that. I was frustrated with not holding a job. I was frustrated that it's still in the military. So there were a lot of things that I was frustrated with, but I was bottling it all up and burying it deep down inside and locking it away and never dealing with it, which I've done my whole life. Because that's my grandpa raised me and said, if you don't we don't express feelings, we lock it away and deal with it when we're old. And that I found out is why I have such a serious anger problem. And I have the paperwork to say that I'm certifiably nuts. But I've never, it took a while until I could get into psychiatry, seeing the psychiatrist and all that stuff with the VA. And I've never, the medical care, I know there's stories, there's tons of stories out there that, you hear all the horror stories of dealing with the VA with medical stuff, and I never had that problem once I got approved. The paperwork side was the part that I had the issue with, fighting with the VA to get them to approve it, and that was just because the regional office didn't like that I went to
Yeah.
a
And
board of
just
veteran
for
appeals.
and we're using an acronym here, y'all. The VA is the Veterans Administration. It is the branch.
Yes.
It is what administers veterans their benefits and their families if they
And-
qualify for benefits as well.
And I agree that they are still very inefficient, and whether it's
It is.
medical care or paper, most like more paperwork than it is the medical care. But I've never had problems with I finally got a doctor when I moved to Minnesota that knew right off the bat what was wrong with my knee. We did a couple of surgeries, and then I ended up having partial knee replacements on both my knees because that was the only way that I could get the process started to have a total knee replacement on both of them. Because at 40, or at the time I was in my late 30s, they would not allow me to, without fighting paperwork wise, there was no way. Like the doctor was like, you need total knee replacements, but the paperwork will take forever. So let's do this instead. And that'll set it up so you can get those when you need them. So I'm hoping my knees will last me, another 10 years before I need the total knee replacements, but I don't have faith in that because my knees are just a train wreck of issues.
No,
And then by the time I got 100% disabled through the VA, I was actually 100% totally and permanently disabled by the VA, which means that because the total and permanent part is what means that they can't take away my rating.
Yeah. No, so
They
he
can't
is
reevaluate me.
So he is 100% disabled, y'all. He is retired from both. He is retired, and Severin, I don't think you would have a unit tattoo because you hurt
No.
yourself in AIT.
AIT, yeah, right at the end.
So
yeah, that I don't. I do have that one, which if I can line my camera up. Okay, well, I'll have to show it. People have seen it. It's literally a dagger through a heart because I'm not going to sit here and try to angle it, but right there. There we go. Perfect, got it.
You're like,
I know. I'm like trying not to. But yeah, so at that point, once I got that, then I was like, by 2018, when I finally stopped working, once I got to that 100%, I was trying to figure out what to do. So I got into gaming again and streaming actually and that was kind of where around October of 2018 is when I actually started streaming, but I was doing retro games like Nintendo, Game Boy, all the old school stuff. And I was doing that on Facebook gaming. And then I shifted towards, I moved over to YouTube, and then I was trying it on Twitch. And then I kind of got successful on YouTube right around the time that Stadia was announced and then launched.
So you then decided, so why? I mean, some people came to Stadia because of the technology. So you're a technology type.
I like the technology. At the time I was all into Google products, but I was also a Microsoft fan. Shout out to, Microsoft, and before they killed the Windows Phone, which I loved. There's probably a lot of people that don't know what that is either.
I had 2 Windows phones.
I had the Lumia 950 and the 950 XL, still the best phones at the time. I mean, they were probably not now, but no. So I got into that, and then I shifted to PC gaming. But Stadia was a little bit different. It was weird because it was that new thing. So that was another reason that kind of got me into it, because it was something that stood out from everything else, from consoles, from PC gaming. And I kept the same moniker, but eventually I was like, all right, somebody in the chat, I was in somebody's chat, and they complained that my name was too long because they were having like, dude, U.S. Army Veteran Gaming that's way too long. So I was like, well, thanks. And then I sat back, I went back, I was like, all right, I got to think of something that incorporates who I am and the gaming. So I just was like, all right, well, I'll just take Stadia and call it Stadia Vet Gaming. And it stuck with me, and I loved Stadia. That literally got me into the cloud gaming community. That was where I made so many friends. I would not know anybody in this community without Stadia coming around, because if Stadia had never happened, I'd still be on Facebook doing retro streaming, and I wouldn't know all of the friends that I've made in the last 3 years. So I have Google to thank for that one.
So And so your Stadia Cloud, your Stadia Cloud or your Vet Stadia Vet Cloud Gaming, right?
No,
It's
it
a
was a
long one.
Stadia Vet Gaming. It was
Stadia
at the
Vet
time it was, yeah, it was Stadia Vet Gaming.
Stadia Vet Gaming. And so then you then change it around what time to Vet Cloud Gaming?
2021, probably over in the summertime, I think, somewhere around there. Because I started to branch out, and I
So
was still doing
this was a
Stadia.
very controversial time though in the Stadia community, no?
Yes, yeah, oh
So
yeah. I said I
explain
was I
Project Storm
started.
explained this a little bit, but you're kind of at ground zero during this very controversial
Oh
time. For
yeah,
the
yeah,
people
because
who don't know what happened in the Stadia community, there was a schism that happened. And Vet, you were part of the crew that broke off.
that, yeah. Well, I was actually, and Ray was a part of this also. We and Anthony, the and now your mama knows. We had formed this community called the Stadia Bash Community Network, the SBCN, and it was basically helping out small streamers and kind of like a TV network of Stadia streamers. It was 7 days a week type stuff. We always had time slots, and around the time that a February time frame, that Stadia had a setback at that time. It split the community. We branched out and created another network at that time, and which caused a massive rift within the community because we were letting people do everything, stream everything. And there was, I don't remember, it was around Memorial Day is when I quit the SBCN and all of that stuff because I had it was mostly a PTSD setback. I kind of like snapped on stream, and I tried to keep my emotions bottled up as best I can. For the most part, I don't normally allow myself to get to the breaking point where I lose control, and just my rage kind of kicks in at that point. So, and that happened on stream, and the video is probably still up there. And Anthony, there was another guy that came in and started poking fun, and then Anthony showed up and announced stuff, and I went off on him, and he felt the brunt of it more than I did because I think the entire community went after him thinking he was attacking veterans and things like that. And I went silent. I shut everything down for at least a month or so. I came back and eventually rebranded as Vet Cloud Gaming because I was already at that time, I'd already started shifting and doing other cloud gaming content, and I wanted to keep the veteran part. And since I was still doing cloud gaming and I was too lazy to think of a really cool name, I just went with Vet Cloud Gaming because everybody already called me Vet. So I was like, all right, I'll just take that and just slap cloud gaming, and bam, there I am. And the only other rebrand that I've ever done was just the logos and stuff that I've changed over time as I've continued to kind of learn how to be a real streamer.
No.
So,
No, well, thanks for sharing. Because a lot of people, some of us who are here, and I know we have Meg in the chat, but some of the other people who are not. And during this time, I would always just watch y'all. I wasn't really playing. I wasn't really in
yeah,
streaming or
and
too much.
I agree with Meg that it was an awful time for the community, and it was. And for those that don't remember, that was when Stadia SG&E shut down.
SG&E shut down, and then the following months after that, you start to see certain that really kind of shifted everything. I
Yeah, there
think,
was a
and
rift
then
within the community. You had this section that was, as Rouser said, the Stadia 100. There was the hardcore fans, the diehard fans, the ones that said it was not going anywhere, and then you had the ones on this side that were like, "Oh, it's gonna die. It's over, and we're leaving. We're gonna go. We're rebranding. We're doing whatever, something else." And then you had a select few in the center that stuck it out, but they did a rebrand. They still played Stadia. They still streamed it, and they did other things. And the one thing that I loved about Stadia was the community, because no matter throughout all of the issues that Stadia has had, and even with the demise of it, with the announcement of the shutdown and all that, the community that it built is still there. Everybody's done other things. They go, whether it's Amazon Luna, it's xCloud, it's PlayStation, console. We're all still there. Like, that was my biggest fear when it shut down was, and I never made that I never said that to anybody, but the biggest fear I had was that it was going to shatter the entire community and everybody was just going to do their own thing and nobody was going to communicate with anybody anymore. And you would lose that camaraderie, and which tied in with the military. That's one of the things that I liked and why I always supported everybody. And I still try as best I can, even though I'm poor.
No, you do an
Um,
amazing job, by the way. You're always
um,
in chats. You're always everybody knows who Zvet is. And to
yeah,
Severin, you're right. It is it there. I think at the end of the day, not that we're at the end of the day, but I think the community was small, but it's actually relatively large if you actually were to think it, for gaming communities for people who
yeah.
know each other. I can easily like I did it one day. I can name over 100 people that I will see
It's
throughout a week
grown.
in the community. It's not like yes, as far as platform player bases goes, but as far as like a community, it's relatively much larger than if I was like a Nintendo streamer. Sure, you know your big streamer people, and there's so many people following Nintendo, but I don't know those people,
Yeah.
right? But like, but
This was
I
more the Stadia made the community that's still here, even without Stadia. It made it like kind of like a family.
yeah.
And I treated it the same way, looking out for people, helping people out as best I could, and and I think a lot of it tied in with the military, and it just never phased. It never registered that the way what I learned in the service I was carrying over into the gaming community when I was, reaching out to people, help looking, checking on people if they had issues. And you see them on Twitter and they're typing cryptic messages or, they're having a bad day and you can tell on stream. And then I'll reach out to them offline and see how they're doing or calling. And even after Stadia announced the shutdown, I reached out to a ton of people checking on them, making sure everybody was okay. Cause I know that was like
It was a tough
that
time.
was yeah. And it still is. And I get that. And I joked about it. I was harsh on Stadia for a long time but I still did not want to see it die. And I'm sure there are people that are like, yeah, right. But I didn't because and I've said this from the very beginning that without Stadia, there wouldn't be cloud gaming because Xbox wasn't worrying about xCloud until Stadia came out. Amazon wasn't worrying about Luna until Stadia came out. So they set the bar. They just, Googled it up and didn't follow through with
No,
the ultimate goal. But I appreciate everything that it brought and what it's done for me as a streamer.
no, I think everybody would say that. There's obviously positives that came out of it, and negatives, but at the end of the day, it brought me back to gaming, and so for that, and brought me this community and meeting people, and so like I always tell people, I think I said this on someone's stream or on my own stream that at the end of the day, if I'm getting all the money I invested in it minus the subscription, which the most anybody played in subscription is $300, so the most anybody lost in a subscription is in Stadia is $300.
Yeah.
And if you're going to tell me like $300, like someone told me 3 years ago, hey, you will get another network. It'll bring you into gaming. You will have some great gaming experiences for $300. And after that, it's going to be over. Would you do it? I'd probably be
Yeah.
like, probably, because it was a good it was a good time while it lasted. So that's how I think of it at least.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
mean, there were always the positives with it, and you look at the tech side, it worked. It regardless of what anybody wants to say, it worked. Yeah, some of the games weren't the best, but there were that Stadia and even GFN and and I stream GFN now and I stream Boostroid now, and to me, I love that when I get certain people, I'm not naming names, Jeff, that come into my stream and like to hate on Boostroid and there's this other gentleman, I think his name's Makercast, but I don't really know. They but and I've listened to people that talk and say, well, Boostroid's illegal and they do this and they do that, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're gonna complain about that. I've heard it before. You guys complained
uh,
about Boost or
y-
Stadia the same.
you know,
Stadia had its
I do not trust Booster. I don't think it's illegal. I
I
just don't
know.
trust it. You know, that's my thing. I do.
No,
Not
I know,
trust
I know, I
Booster.
know, and we'll save that for another debate.
Yeah, we are not going to
Um,
do that. I'm
No,
good.
we don't need to get into that because they're like, well, I didn't trust Google either because look what happened. But no,
I'm good.
I
No,
I wish out of all the gaming companies and things like that, I would have loved to see Sega get into cloud gaming. They would have had I think a fantastic way if they could have partnered with somebody and just said, here, have access to our whole catalog of stuff. And I that was one of my things with some of these companies. Do I have issues with GFN? Yeah, sometimes I do. I don't stream a lot of it sometimes because there's just
But let's be serious. You have issues with
yeah, I know
everything.
I have issues with
You
everything.
have issues with every like
I
I
have
think
issues
we've
with every
seen that
service.
this entire conversation that if
Yeah, I
it's
know.
something
What everyone has
you
learned is I am a train wreck of issues. That's all it is.
you have issues. And I see you out there, Severin. As long as you vote, Severin, I don't care who you vote for, as long as you vote. I'm definitely happy.
Just
And
remember, Severn,
Jinx,
America.
what? Mark. And Jinx, thank you. Another veteran into the chat. Of course, I am going to recognize all the veterans every single time, and especially this time because tomorrow is Veterans Day. And so awesome stuff. But so what's next for you? What's next?
I don't know.
What gets you excited going for? Is it a
Just
game? Is it technology?
it's
What's
it's
next for
not
VetCloud?
just the tech, really, and watching where all the cloud surfaces that are there and watching where it goes. Because I think it's as much as people want to be like, well, it's not the future. It is, and we're seeing that. Microsoft's pushing it, GFN's pushing it, regardless of what people want to say about Boosteroid or Amazon Luna. They're still in it as well. And whether we get any other newcomers, I don't know, but it's fun to see where this has taken me as a streamer, because I can look back at my old stuff from when I first started and look at where I am now, and it's two different people. I was nowhere near this outgoing and talkative, and I didn't have this big of an ego when I first started, which I know is another shocking thing. But no, I love that the community is still there and watching it expand and continuing to meet new people. That's the other thing is I really like, and I'm still branching out my stuff. I'm on other platforms, growing it there so I can be everywhere. So no matter where people go, they're going to find me there, causing problems and mayhem and chaos.
Awesome sauce. Well, Vet, thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking us
Well,
on
thank
this
you for
journey.
having me on here.
No, and I mean, I remember when we were talking, and I said Veterans Day, and it was like back in May or June when I said it.
Totally did
and
not
so,
remember it until last week.
No, so
To be
thank you so much
honest.
for coming on and like I said, just telling us your story. And also thank you for serving. Thank you for also being a pillar. The one thing I will say is you are always kind of just like you've gamed on everything. I think like you've given hate to everything, but you've given love to everything. And that is the one thing that I think that you're always true to. Like, right. I don't think you call it like it is, and
Yeah.
that's commendable.
And it hurts some people's feelings. It pisses some people off, and other people just will listen. But I don't want to shy away from there. If there's issues, I'm going to speak it up, but I'm also going to preach out the positives for everything, whether it's Google, Amazon, Nvidia, PC, console, doesn't really matter. And I'm always going to be around supporting everybody as much as I can.
No, and that's super awesome. With that said, where can people find you?
VetCloud Gaming on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Gaming. I do have a Twitch page. I don't stream on it a whole lot, but I tweet out when I go live almost every time. So usually just keep an eye on that. I've got a Discord, Cloud Gaming United. It was one name. I don't remember what we had it, but we rebranded to open it up to pretty much anybody that wants to be involved in cloud gaming. And we've got a Facebook gaming group, Cloud Gaming United, as well. And if you need links, just hit me up on Twitter.
Awesome stuff. And I will have those. I don't think I have those links down there, but I will have those after this for you all. And I love how Severin he pisses off his fellow Canadians, and then Rudix comes in right afterward. He's like, hey. I thought that was like perfect timing. Thanks. No wars happening here. If y'all have ever seen Canadian Bacon with John Candy,
I'm Canada's pants at where I live, so we're right at the bottom of their pants. Well, that sounded weird, but yeah, and we'll skip that part. That is not.
Where are we going for this one?
I don't know. It sounded that it's not. I had what it was supposed to sound like in my head.
So you said, "I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna sound even worse." That's exactly what happened here.
Pretty much.
Man, Ben, I've learned so much about you. You're predator. You're substance before the military. Not a team player. Can't do authority. Everything you started off, every business you worked for has either failed or is failing.
Yeah, pretty much. Even self-employment when I had my own businesses, I had
Oh
two
my,
businesses and they both failed.
oh
Yeah,
my
well, I'm
gosh.
seeing the trend there.
That lives in
The
Canada's
only
pants.
successful one has
Yes.
been the streaming, the cloud
Yes.
streaming.
No, Meg, this is we I got to it. Oh my gosh. But with that said, this has been fun, Ved. Thank you again so much. And
Oh,
thank
no
you everybody
problem.
for chat, for coming by,
I
showing the
couldn't even
channel
keep up with the
support.
chat.
I mean, chat is going on. Chat is going on. We have amazing people in chat always doing their thing. Squids, what's up? And just coming by and supporting
50 Shades of Purple.
oh my gosh, no. Maybe this Sunday, because this Sunday I'm supposed to beat Martha is Dead. People have told me, so I gotta I
refuse to
may
play that
I
game.
may
My
be
brother,
doing some.
shout out to you for playing that. I refuse to play it. I don't like scary games. I've only played
It's like a twisted game.
like
It's like
I've only played 2, and I streamed Resident Evil 7 on Luna when it first came out, and unfortunately, I screamed at least twice, and I've never played a scary game live ever again because somebody like screenshot or clipped
something
that
like
scream.
for a military, like everything you went to the military to shoot people.
It was dead
You
silent, and I had
can't-
it was silent. And it was just there was a scene where they jumped out, and I just flipped. So it is what it is.
Well, for everybody else, I will be there this Sunday. Last Sunday, I was supporting the New York City Marathon, the runners running. And so this Sunday, I will be there playing Martha's Dead. And maybe we'll have a little Purple After Dark. Depends on the audience. Depends on if y'all are there and what we may
I'll
do.
tune in. I'll tune in, and we'll get it going.
Oh my gosh, I have to watch out for you. Like, there's some people I have to watch out for. But with that said, next week we will have another veteran as well. And then I'm trying to get a foreign service veteran for the show after that. But Vet, again, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And as I said, I will be streaming Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Martha's Dead. I should be completing it. And then next Thursday, we'll be streaming again at 8 p.m. Eastern. So please come by and check it out. But with that said, this is Purple Haze. I was thinking your name. I was like, I'm not bad. This is Purple Haze. The proof is in the plane. And as always, I don't care where you game, how you game, when you game, why you game. As long as you're gaming, you're good with me. All right. Later, y'all.
Yeah.